Welcome to another In Wheel Time podcast, a 30-minute mini version of the In Wheel Time car show that airs live every Saturday morning, 8 to 11 a.m. Central. Max anywhere. Podcasting and streaming worldwide, it's the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Just ahead, Ann Reinke, CEO of TIA, Transport Intermediaries Association.
Cool.
Ann has a career-long association with American transportation in the private sector and with the U.S. Department of Transportation as well. Very smart lady, and we're going to talk to her. Conrad will have the In Wheel Time Car Clinic, and we'll also have this week's Auto News. Howdy, along with Mike out of this world Mars. King Conrad DeLong. We always need more Jeff Zekin. I'm Don Armstrong. Thanks so much for joining us on our live broadcast. And if you're listening or watching on the stream, we thank you for that as well. All right, let's just get right to it. Ann, I heard that you're pronouncing your last name Reinke. Am I
That's good enough. Yeah, I'll take it. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And it's an honor to talk to you. Your career is really something, and I want to tell everybody, 16-year career in Washington, D.C., the office of CSX. You know who CSX is?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Trains.
Pardon me?
Trains,
yeah, exactly. She ultimately became vice president, government affairs there, overseeing the federal, state government, and community affairs departments. She received a BA from Rice University right here in Houston.
Right.
Yay.
Yeah.
That's the most important part of my resume. That's it.
Go
right
Owls.
there.
Yeah, the Owls. So were you a fighting owl? Did you play volleyball or anything?
Passive owl.
I was on the sidelines being very encouraging as we lost to everyone in the Southwest Conference. That's how old I am.
So you're a Cowboys fan.
No, God, no. God, no.
Oh, Lord. Well, so, Ann, tell us what is TIA, Transportation Intermediaries Association? What does that company do?
Sure. So we're an association representing brokers and third-party logistics companies. And so who are they? They're what we call the middlemen, the people who are in the center of the supply chain between the shipper. So some of your members, I would assume, auto dealers, automakers on the one hand, and then carriers and other modes of transportation on the other. We're putting the two together. So we have members who would work with the GMs of the world. And then we have members who do all kinds of things from hazmat to fresh food to what have you. And then they work to contract with the truck driver mostly. We're about 80% truck facing, and we have about 2,000 members. The logistics industry is about a $276 billion industry. It's one of those industries that no one knew about until the pandemic. And when people said, where the heck is my toilet paper and my cereal and wherever else, they're like, oh, wait, there's a whole supply chain. So we benefited a little bit from the pandemic in that regard.
Well, Ann, I have to tell you, and you know this from being here in Houston for a while, that Houston is a huge port. We have a huge port here, and we also have a very huge rail presence here.
Yes.
Matter of fact, the call letters of KPRC Channel 2 and KPRC Radio, Cotton Port and Rail Center.
Oh,
and
there you go.
and all of us have been caught up in some sort of, a trains blocking an intersection or whatever.
Yes.
But the trains in and out of Houston is tremendous. We have two major trail yards up on the northeast side of town. And if you were to fly over them, you go, oh my gosh, I had no clue that it was that big. So we're very much in tune with the transportation part of your job, especially here in the Houston area. So do you have any, you clearly have something to do with shipping as well, because once the ship gets here, you got to get it to wherever else it's going to go.
That's right. And so, I was thinking about our interview and our discussion today and how we align. And so part of it is the customers that we have, right? The automakers, et cetera. But part of it too is we're really interested in what the future of transportation is in terms of, is it going to be automation, right? So you are looking at automated vehicles. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts about that. We're thinking about, what does automated trucks do for us? Does that work from a safety perspective? Since we're the ones hiring the truck, is that actually going to benefit the shipper and the end user to have an automated vehicle? There's lots of pros and cons, and we can talk about that. And then the other part, which I think I caught a little bit of, is this EV mandate, which, as you know, in California, God knows everything bad happens, it starts in California. They have this EV mandate to have zero emissions for trucks by 2045. And I'm sure you guys have thoughts on that as it relates to not only trucks, but also autos.
Well, yeah, exactly. Here in the Houston area, everybody's going, wait a minute. They're ultimately not going to have somebody behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler. Sometimes I think that might not be too bad.
An 80,000-pound 18-wheeler.
Yeah, exactly. We had an incident here a few weeks back where some 18-wheeler driver, I guess, lost his mind on drugs or something, parked the thing in the middle of the freeway, and then ultimately had to have a one-armed bandit from the police department open up the entire side of the 18-wheeler to drag this guy out of there after the dog went after his head, and they let it loose. A 4-hour major freeway shutdown. So, there are goods and bads when it comes to 18-wheelers and automation and that sort of stuff. But that's the way things are going, though, because behind the scenes, and I don't think most people really realize that, is the fact that they are working on a driverless tractor trailer and all over the major centers where transportation is key. And let's just use Amazon. They must have 24 Amazon facilities here in the Houston area alone.
Huge.
And there is a perfect example of something that could really use an automated system.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's exactly right. You're tugging on the point, which is there are trade-offs. So there are going to be amazing things in that, there's not necessarily sufficient driver population as drivers retire. A lot of truck drivers are getting older and they're not filling back up those ranks to the extent necessary. So, here's a way that we can magnify the population by having an automated sort of opportunity. On the other hand, what is the risk profile of the driving public if they know that next to them is a 80,000-pound truck that doesn't have a driver, right? I mean, it's the same thing as if you've ever been in a driverless car or seen a driverless car, you sort of feel like you're worried, right? Even if it maybe is supposed to be more reliable than human, you're still a little concerned about it. It's hard from a public perception to accept that.
Well, and then the driver, people do dumb things when there's a driver in the 80,000-pound truck. How dumb are they going to be when there's not somebody in the 80,000-pound truck? And how is it going to react to the stupidity of people? Sorry.
You're exactly
Well, how many car radio talk shows do you get on that you're able to chuckle at some of this stuff? And you have to have a sense of humor.
Listen, we're in a brave new world, right? And the fact is, there's such tremendous things. We can't be gloom and doom. There's lots of fabulous things to look forward to. However, all of this comes with trade-offs, as we talked about. I mean, the other thing, too, is you probably know that the trial lawyers are always looking for new industries to pursue. And so if we, the broker, contract a driverless truck, and something were to happen, because we all live in the land where something happens, does that mean that we get sued because we made an unsafe choice by using a driverless truck, right? I mean, these are kinds of the considerations. So unfortunately, there's probably going to be some kind of regulatory angle or litigation angle here in the future, even if there are a lot of benefits.
Yeah, and then there's Jim Adler, the Texas Hammer. He's going to sue the daylights out of everybody.
And will he be standing on a driverless truck?
That's right. So, Ann, let's talk for just a second about you mentioned it, about the shortages of products, and I'm not talking about microchips coming in from China. I'm talking about, seat covers or car polish or whatever it may be. We see trains going up and down the track. What happened to the transportation industry when we had that whole pandemic shutdown for a couple of months?
Yeah, we call it the perfect storm. So it was all kinds of shortages from top to bottom. So driver population shortage was first and foremost, actually getting trucks moving. Then there was a mineral and supply shortage, meaning the trucks were actually to make the components of the trucks, that was lacking as well. And then getting the commodities, they were, stuck in China in many ways, right? Many times they were stuck there, or they were stuck in other places and we couldn't get to them. It just was kind of like from top to bottom, there weren't sufficient people in a warehouse. There weren't sufficient people driving the truck. There weren't sufficient commodities to carry. There weren't, right, and on and on and on. And so it took a while for the supply chain to figure itself out, right the ship, so to speak. I'll say one other thing. No one was getting their hair cut. No one was going on trips. No one was prevailing upon any services. So what did they do with all their disposable income? They just bought a bunch of stuff. I'm sure you were sitting at home and you're like, you know what? I hate my dining room table. I need a new dining room table. Or I hate my carpet. I'm going to get a new carpet. Whatever it was, everyone was buying stuff. And so the volumes were unprecedented. We have never seen the amount of volumes in 2021 and 2022 ever.
Well, and it's not surprising, and I hadn't thought of it that way, that people were at home. So what do you do when you're at home?
Shop on Amazon.
Well, shop on Amazon.
Wayfair, pick
wherever.
But you buy all of that stuff online or have the services like carpeting. No, you don't think about it. Where is the carpet made? How does it get here? You don't think about that. You go to Home Depot and there's a whole big rolls and rolls and rolls of it. I'll have that. Put that in there.
So one of the things you've now mentioned about 3 times was the shortage of drivers. Does your organization do anything trying to help grow the amount of drivers available to the industry?
Yeah, I mean, what we can do is be supportive. Since we don't own trucks ourselves, we just contract to hire them. We can be supportive of, for example, the US DOT did a pilot project of allowing men and women 18, under 21, basically, to be registered as truck drivers across state lines. Right now, they're not allowed to, so they started this pilot project. And quite frankly, it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, if you have an 18-year-old who's going to Afghanistan or what have you, and they can't drive a truck to another state, that doesn't make any sense, right? So we tried to help to expand that population. And then there are other things we can do too, which is supporting their various schools that are teaching CDLs. And so we're supportive of that. I mean, from our perspective, whatever we can do to have the next generation go into these lines of work. I mean, selfishly, we want them to be logistics professionals, but we also want them to be truck drivers because otherwise that's, 80% of our members are relying on them. So that's what we try to do is just be supportive of those opportunities.
Where do you get an education in transportation, whatever you called it?
Logistics.
Logistics. Where do you get an education in logistics? Because that is
besides Rice University.
Besides Rice University, exactly. But seriously, I don't know. How would you get into that sort of thing?
Well, see, that's exactly right. So that's part of our education campaign. TIA has its own education resources, but these are typically people who are already in the industry. But to get into the industry, we're actually working with various universities. For example, University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, they have part of our education to teach their, undergrads to have a logistics degree. But there are other programs that are famous for their logistics programs. University of Denver is another one. And so these schools, University of Wisconsin, University of Michigan, they all have supply chain schools. And so we think it's probably kind of next step for us is to see how many universities we can work with to provide our educational resources if they choose to. I mean, there are already that have a ton of logistics professionals and resources. They don't necessarily need us, but that's where we think the next generation of folks is coming from.
But why wouldn't it be more focused on, or at least partially focused on, community colleges, bringing it back home to those that aren't going to have a 4-year degree?
That's a great point. And I think we are sort of agnostic on whether it's an elite university or if it's a community college. Quite frankly, whatever educational resources we can provide, we don't have. We are not snobbish about it. We're happy to provide anything that we can because ultimately that helps our profession. And you may or may not experience this with what you're dealing with, but there's a lot of fraud in the industry. There's a lot of fraud in the supply chain, and so if we have a really professionalized group of folks, of logisticians, as they call them, that ultimately benefits everybody, including the reputation of our industry, but also the end user and the end consumer.
Yeah, because a degree in logistics and supply chain is going to be much more valuable than a degree in French Renaissance art.
Well,
Hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, does somebody have a degree in French Renaissance poetry? That makes me think of Groundhog Day.
I think of croissants.
Croissants, that's it.
But part of it, I was kind of amazed because I did not know until we started talking to you, and even today, even more, the amount of information that I don't have regarding logistics and the supply chain and things. Stuff comes in on a boat, somebody takes it off, they put it on a truck, and it comes to Walmart. That's what I think a lot of us think about. We don't understand the intricacy.
All the steps.
No.
That there may be 25 or 30 people involved to do that.
Well, it's
Well,
also got to pass through customs on the way too.
Well, not only that, but you got to get it off the boat. You got to load it onto the containers. Then you got to get it to the trucking company, and then you got to get it. There's
To the
just
fulfillment center, and then they deliver it.
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and that's why, if let's say you're Walmart, why would you work with a broker? Well, the fact is because we are that transportation department. So you just listed like 7 steps. And so our professionals are the ones who can figure out the best path forward from, the boat to the store and what the lane should be, how fast we can do it, who's the best carrier to use, all of that stuff. That's why they turn to a broker as opposed to having an enormous, transportation department themselves. They're going to go to us and say, just take it off our hands. We don't really, you're the ones
You're
who
the
know.
professional.
yeah,
You
depend
know how
on
to do
you're
it.
the subject matter expert. Depend on them to facilitate all of that.
Does
for
it
you.
matter that if it's maybe like a refrigerator size and maybe a price point versus maybe like a pack of napkins or a pair of socks or something? Is there like a priority on what gets sent, or is it all loaded together and moved?
No, so it really just depends. We have what they call truckload, which would be one truckload filled with the same thing. And then there's less than truckload, LTL, which is a service that essentially is, all right, you think about like the milk truck that has to make a lot of stops. It's sort of the equivalent of the milk truck that has to make a lot of stops, like the local truck that has, all right, we're going to stop here and drop off the napkins. Now we're going to stop here and we have a pallet of, mallow bars. I don't know why that just came to me, but I love Marshmallow cookies. Right? So that's how it works. Whereas there's a service that you can provide. And then you think about like oversized and overdimensional freight. For example, those wind turbines that you see all over Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's our specific equipment for that. So our members would know, all right, I know which carriers have that specific equipment. And so I'll be able to work, to get those things moving. Whereas the wind turbine people, they don't know that's not their business. Their business is making wind turbines. And
Right.
so they rely on us to say, all right, we're going to take that, and get it going.
So is there one point that there would be a truck line maybe developing a type of transportation for that wind farm, or maybe an oil field company that has a specific product or machinery that needs to go on a specific truck? Is that all part of it as well?
Yeah, so we have a member, actually, he just testified in Congress this past week about the supply chain. The company is Tucker Worldwide, and they have a pharmaceutical business. And so there's very, very specific trucks that you need to move pharmaceuticals, right? For example, the COVID-19 vaccine had to be refrigerated at a certain temperature. And so he had access to all of that equipment because of his experience with pharmaceuticals. So my point is, if you have a dedicated customer and that's what they do, and they work with a broker and they say, I know I can trust you because I know you've got access to that equipment, it sort of takes a load off their mind. They don't have to worry about it. And then that, it allows us to do what we do best. I think one other thing I'd say is all of this stuff that we're talking about, the various steps, we collect data about it. And so that data then becomes really meaningful to help us know how to do it better and how to sell our services to others who may be in the same business.
And how it impacts the end user's cost, because transportation is also considered part of the cost of purchase.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And now with all of this mess that's going on in the Red Sea, and instead of passing through the Suez Canal
They
in
go around
3 days, now they got to go around the Cape
Horn, yeah.
Cape Horn through South Africa. That's adding time and
Money.
cost
Yeah.
Which
to
translates to
everything.
money.
And a delay in the mallow bars. bars.
And a delay in the mallow bars.
Mallow bars.
At least the vanilla portion of the mallow bars coming out of Madagascar, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So we provide such a tremendous benefit. And again, I know that a lot of people don't think one red second about where anything comes from that they buy at the store. But I do think that there has gradually become an awareness, again, because of the pandemic. And we didn't have access to stuff that we always had access to.
Toilet
I'm
paper.
sure you had like that. We had bizarre, I have nothing wrong with the country of Turkey, but we had this weird Turkish paper towels. It's like, why am I having Turkish paper towels? Where's my bounty? Right? I mean,
Exactly.
Know,
That's when you start thinking about these things and you start wondering. And like I say, I just in talking to you and looking at the background material, it's just like, I never knew that. Never thought about that.
Well, and to go back to something you mentioned just a few minutes ago was the truck that delivers multiple different things to people. Somebody has to plan how to load that truck properly.
That's right.
So as they hit each stop, that's the next thing coming off the truck. So that's some of the logistics
exactly right.
you've got to facilitate.
Now,
as
the
well.
real reason that we called you today and wanted to talk to you, besides the mallow bars and Rice University Owls and that sort of thing, are you really pulling for the Baltimore Ravens today?
No, God, no.
Well, where are you located?
Look, I have nothing against the Ravens. I did spend some formative years in Texas, so I have a sweet spot for the Texans. Go Texans, right?
Yeah.
They had a blowout. That was incredible. But I am a Redskins / Commanders fan. But we've had, 35 years?
Sorry to hear that.
Of mediocrity? I know. God help us.
Well,
We're on the ascendancy, though. We're on the ascendancy.
Yeah, that's right.
listen,
Yeah, when you're at the
consistent.
bottom,
You're
it's always
consistent.
looking up.
and any time that you want to come on the show, you just let us know. We don't even have to talk about TIA. We'll talk about mallow bars and the Texans.
And as they say in Texas, bless your heart.
Well, by the way, my son is, I have a 7-year-old son who's so obsessed with Hot Wheels. It's unbelievable. And I kept calling, I was like, Mommy's got to be on the Hot Wheels show. And he's like, oh, sure.
What's his name? What's your son's name?
It's Wyatt.
Wyatt. What's going on, Wyatt?
That's it.
Shout out to Wyatt.
Shout out to Wyatt.
And it's been a real pleasure, a real blast. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to meet you. And anytime you're in Houston, Texas, come and see us and be a live guest in the studio.
I will. And let's go to Ninfa's together.
Hey.
Yeah, well,
Lupe Tortilla.
We're Lupe Tortilla fans.
Oh, that's right. That's one of your sponsors. So
Yeah.
that's okay. But we'll treat you to Tex-Mex, so come on down.
And a mellow bar.
Yeah, that's it. And thanks again.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
You do
too.
the same. How much fun is that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
That was
cool.
fun. That was
Okay, time now for Conrad's Car Clinic.
What?
It's the car clinic time. What are we car clinicking today?
Well, we're going to talk about your car when it's freezing outside.
All right, that's good.
You know, the first instinct before driving anywhere may be to let your car warm up, but that might not be such a great idea. According to experts, the engine only needs less than a minute to reach all of its temperatures and getting all the fluids flowing
Doesn't
correctly.
matter about age of the car? Or the
Doesn't
older the
really
car?
matter
Okay.
about age of the car. So once the fluids get flowing and everything's working, which happens, shortly after you start it,
Sort of like me this
you're
morning.
good to go, right? The other thing I wanted to talk about is your windshields. So when it's this cold out, now we didn't see it quite this cold, but I've had some frost on my car. Well, when you have these little marks in your windshield, the little chips and stuff, you got to be real careful how you first off clean the windshield and second off how you defrost the windshield. So if you put your defroster on max get it temperature and then crank it up, there's a high probability that little rock chip is going to spread to a big long crack, and that's going to go across the windshield, because you got to remember a windshield is basically two pieces of glass with a piece of plastic between them.
The film.
So if you heat the inside glass up faster than the outside glass, the inside glass expands, and that will basically run those cracks. So instead of cranking it up to 90 degrees to heat the inside windshield up, just set it on 60, 65, let it eventually come up to temperature. It really doesn't take that much longer to melt the ice off your windshield, because you definitely want the ice off your windshield before you head on down the highway.
A plastic credit card will get the ice off the
plastic
windshield
credit
pretty
card,
quick.
yeah.
Full tilt boogie. That's
Do
When
not-
I lived in San Antonio, one of these little cold fronts came through. one morning I backed out of the garage, and that rock chip went all the way across, just hit the car there.
Because you can just kind of hit the flex in your car as you're backing down the driveway,
makes a very unique sound.
Run here.
Oh, yeah.
So, being careful with how you defrost your windshield is important in these days.
That's a very good information. I like that. Yeah, that was good. And it'll also make you have to change that cracked or damaged windshield quicker by doing it that way. So if that's the case and you've got insurance, then crank it up to 90 degrees.
You betcha.
Well, and those people out there that can fix the rock chips, do it, because my opinion is it's probably stronger than it was before because they pull all the air out of it and fill it in with a glue.
Allegedly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Allegedly.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's Conrad.
Yeah, that was Conrad. All right.
Because nobody else wants to be.
Parts customer who bought oil not recommended by his vehicle's manufacturer cannot pursue a negligent misrepresentation claim against the Canadian dealership that sold him the oil. An Alberta judge has ruled. Justice George Shannon of the Provincial Court of Justice rejected an attempt by Jamal El-Rafi to hold Calgary BMW responsible for catastrophic damage to the engine of his 2006 BMW M5 sedan. The decision, said El-Rafi, failed to produce evidence the dealership made an untrue, inaccurate, or misleading representation that caused his misfortune, nor was there sufficient evidence that the wrong oil caused the damage. The suit alleged that in 2019, a parts department employee at Calgary BMW advised El-Rafi to switch from 10W60 oil, called for in the owner's manual, to the less expensive 5W30 oil. El-Rafi bought the 530 oil at the dealership, which an independent mechanic used for the oil change. However, the decision said the employee merely told El-Rafi accurately that BMW USA had transitioned to 5W30 and that BMW Canada might do the same. Well, it wasn't good.
I thought they were sealed systems.
$25,000 engine.
Aren't they sealed systems?
Yeah.
In dismissing the suit, Shannon cited the absence of testimony from the independent mechanic, and turns out that the guy hadn't changed the oil in a long, long time.
Oh, boy.
And when he did, he went to 530, and it plugged up the whole thing, and it over-revved the engine. It did all sorts of things and all sorts of ugly damage.
I'm stupid, and I want to blame somebody else.
Story.
Yeah, I drive an M6.
A quick break now. You're on the N-Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Back after this.
Rev your engines and set sail for the ultimate surf and turf. The Houston Automotive Show, January 24th through the 28th at NRG Center. One ticket gets you into both the auto show and the boat show. See your favorite car and boat brands under one roof. Learn about the latest electric vehicles and test drive one with Evolve Houston. Board your dream boat and check out the bass fishing demos. It's the Houston Automotive Show, January 24th through the 28th. Buy early and save at automotiveshow.com.
You own a car you love. Well, why not let Gulf Coast Auto Shield protect it? Houstonian John Gray invites you to his state-of-the-art facility to introduce you to his specialist team of auto enthusiasts. We promise you'll be impressed. Whether you're looking to massage your original paint to a like-new appearance, apply a ceramic coating, install a paint protection film, nano-ceramic window tint, or new windshield protection called ExoShield, Gulf Coast Auto Shield is where Houston's car people go. Curbed your wheels? Instead of buying new, why not have them repaired? How about a professionally installed radar detector? Gulf Coast Auto Shield does that too. Get a peek inside the shop and look at the services offered by getting online and heading to gcautoshield.com. Better yet, stop by their facility at 11275 South Sam Houston Tollway, just south of the Southwest Freeway, and get a personal tour. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your place to go for all things exterior. Call them today, 832-930-5655 or gcautoshield.com. The original group of Lupi Tortilla restaurants will have you telling your family and friends just what the original recipes mean when it comes to the best fajitas in Southeast Texas. Founder Stan Holt invites you to visit the original Lupi Tortilla near I-10 and Highway 6. Here's the original house that inspired the design of all the rest and the original charm that helped make Lupi Tortilla the go-to destination for Houston Tex-Mex. Speaking of original, nothing can compete with the original lime pepper marinade that everyone will agree makes Lupi Tortilla award-winning beef fajitas the best anywhere. Lupi Tortilla Katy is another location that gives you the same quality and service Houstonians have come to expect at Lupi's. It's located just off I-10 and the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard in Katy. Find yourself in Aggie Land? Head to the Lupi Tortilla in College Station, located just around the corner from Kyle Field. It's a great place to enjoy those famous frozen margaritas before or after the game. Headed east to Louisiana, stop in at the Lupi Tortilla in Beaumont. It too's on I-10. You can't miss it. The original group of Lupi Tortilla restaurants invite you in for the best Tex-Mex anywhere. That's it for this podcast episode of the In Wheel Time Car Show. I'm Don Armstrong, inviting you to join us for our live show every Saturday morning, 8 to 11 a.m. Central on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and our InWheelTime.com website. Podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart Podcast, Podcast Addict, TuneIn, Pandora, and Amazon Music. Keep listening, and we'll see you soon.